Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, Season 9, Episode 47. We almost have a full house. We're pretty much going to have a full house, provided Johnny Zwislak follows through on his promise. But
He's on the way.
I am John DiCarlo, joined by Kyle Gauss, Rymir Vaughn, Declan Landis. Have a pretty cool show ahead for you guys. This is the last episode of Season 9, which is going to make Kyle happy because Kyle always likes when we flip to the
No, because we
next
didn't
calendar.
do a summer break. The whole that's why I'm.
But you had your summer break. You had some episodes off. You were riding. You were traversing.
I'm looking out
across
for the
southeastern-
kids. Okay, I'm past summer breaks in
Thank
my
you.
life. Okay, I'm looking out for the children
Thank
who
you.
need that time to recover. You made Declan commute up from the first state to come up here.
I didn't make him do anything. I mean, to be honest, you're not here necessarily you're kind of here for the scoop,
Yeah, it was a happy accident.
but what are we doing for lunch after the scoop?
We're going to Jim South Street
Yeah.
for the first time since it burnt down. I'm very excited.
Yeah. And again, make sure you don't have anywhere important to go after the scoop because you're going to smell.
Oh,
Have you,
like
have you
gyms.
been to gyms before?
Yeah, I went like 4 or 5 times freshman year, and then
Okay.
it burnt down. Yeah, so
You
I
could just
loved
go
it.
buy a $30 ticket to Pittsburgh and go to Jim Steaks in the airport. Could've done
Not a
that for
bad
the last couple
idea.
weeks.
I'm not actually going to get on the plane. I just
This guy's spitting.
Not to get too far into this. Did you see the Flyers? Like the Russian prospect finally came over. They met him in the airport, like Danny
Mhm.
Briere did.
Yeah.
But they met him like in the airport, which you can't do anymore. So I was like, did they just buy like the cheapest ticket to get past TSA so they could like meet him at the gate, or did TSA like let him through?
maybe John Clark probably got him in. Johnny Airport.
It's
has
Danny
connect.
Briere. You know what are you gonna do? Not let him in? You know?
Yeah.
There's
Well,
some pilot being like, oh my God, we actually have somebody flying to Rochester today. I have to show up for this flight. And it's just Danny Briere buying the cheapest ticket.
I'm 99% sure the TSA people do not know who Danny Briere is.
No,
Yeah,
for sure.
sure.
No, it definitely wasn't that he
Yeah.
showed up and was like, I don't know if you guys remember the 2007 Flyers. No, it would have had to be like the Flyers connected with PHL. I think they could have.
Never tell you how, what was it, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, I was on the way to John Longacre's wedding. So John Longacre, LPMG, owns OwlScoop, owns a bunch of bars and restaurants. In
Shout
South
out, boss
Philly.
man.
Yes. And so he got married on like the farm that they have up in like northeastern PA, way up, I forget the name of the town. And so I'm on 476 on the Blue Route, like heading up and getting gas. And I'm putting gas in my car and I look over, a car pulls away and I meet eyes with Danny Briere. And he looks over at me and smiles. And I'm like, Danny Briere, right? He goes, yep. I was like,
Yep.
man,
John DiCarlo.
I actually-
what if he had said that? What if he goes, John DiCarlo, right?
I would have said there's no way you should know who I am.
That's
Like,
hilarious.
this week's episode, not enough hockey talk, but he was very nice. So it's like, hey, it's like, have a safe trip, man. Nice meeting you. Good luck with everything. He's very, very nice. And I completely forget where I was going after that, but
It's a good story,
nevertheless,
though.
we're
Yeah.
going to gyms. So
Yeah.
I did not necessarily, did I make any demands on you coming up here today?
I mean, I did take an earlier train.
Yes, but let the record show that I did not necessarily force you to come up, but you did, you took an earlier train,
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
I-
just like that to be recognized.
which I appreciate. But cool episode ahead for you guys. We're going to play my interview with Temple guard Jameel Brown. Talked to Jameel not long after he verbally committed to Temple out of the transfer portal, of course, transferred in from Penn State, and had a chance to catch up with them late last week over at the Pearson McGonigal Hall facility. So we'll have that interview for you. Lighter mailbag this week, but we'll answer mailbag question. And then we'll also talk about with Temple football's preseason camp kicking off next week. We'll talk about maybe 3 key storylines of preseason camp as we look ahead to Temple's 2024 football season. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road to the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company will not be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win. So in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. It's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. famous number 47s. Got any? I can think of one.
John Lynch.
Yeah, that was it. I was
Yeah.
gonna say former player, now front office executive. I know what Kyle's gonna say.
Yeah, the lefty in the best pitching rotation of all time.
Do you know who that is, Declan?
He gave the Phillies the 2007 division or wild card, whatever they got.
Are you familiar with like the great Braves pitchers in the 90s?
I can't say that I am.
Tom Glavine.
Tom Glavine.
Yeah.
An NBA player who had a nickname that you probably can't get away with nowadays.
Andre Karolinko.
Andre Karolinko, AK-47.
Greatest nickname of all time.
What was the nickname?
AK-47.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
The player, this is not a good player, was traded for Jeremy Giambi from the Phillies. Or maybe reverse. Maybe it was the Phillies. Let me verify that.
I'm cooked.
Yeah, no, he was traded for Jeremy
What was
Giambi
the
from the
posi-
Phillies to the A's.
What was the position?
He was an outfielder, right? First baseman, outfielder.
First baseman, outfielder.
You share a first name with him.
John.
But there you go. Declan's on the right track.
Yes.
What time period is this?
This is Jeremy Giambi. It's early 2000s.
Oh, I don't know.
John Mayberry?
Exactly. John Mabry.
Oh,
Mabry.
wow.
Good recall.
Should have just said it.
Wow.
I would never
Wow.
guess that.
But that was the whole like scene in Moneyball, right? Where he gets hurt Jeremy Giambi because he's a punk.
I have a
John has
confession.
never seen Moneyball. I forgot
Right.
about this.
Me neither. Me neither.
I've
Neither
seen a
have I.
couple of clips,
Oh.
but
We're 0 for 3 in John's office right now.
maybe
We're about to be 1 for 4,
He
hopefully
is.
soon.
John,
And then
you
I've never
track-
heard of this, so I've never heard of him. So I'd be surprised if you had. But the all-time leader in pitching games in MLB,
Don
he was a
Sutton.
reliever for the Mets and Orioles and
Oh,
Brewers.
Jesse Orozco?
Good recall. Yes, Jesse Orozco leads the most pitching appearances ever.
He was a lefty.
That was good. He pitched till he was 46.
It's no Jamie Moyer.
No.
Look who it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us a little late,
Fresh as a daisy.
Hello.
Johnny Zawisla. Johnny, we're on famous number 47s.
Your
Can you
favorite
think of-
number, famously.
Can you think of any 47s? Do you know who? Well, let me ask you this. Have you seen Moneyball before?
I have, yes.
Okay. All right. So you and Kyle have seen Moneyball. The rest of us have not.
Not a journeyman, but a second baseman for the Phillies in 2017. Was originally with the Angels.
Oh, I can see him, but I can't remember his name.
Shares a first name with a very good general manager in sports.
Daryl?
Howie.
Howie
Kendrick.
Kendrick.
Oh, Howie Kendrick. Oh,
Right here with the assist.
Some bad Phillies teams.
Yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
that's a bad Phillies team.
yeah.
Any Eagles who wore 47 that you think of?
No, but probably a bruiser running back for the Raiders in the early 2000s. I played with him a lot in Madden 2002.
That's before my
Went to
time.
Michigan.
I was born.
Oh, Tyrone Wheatley.
Tyrone Wheatley,
Tyrone
or
Wheatley.
47 with the Raiders.
Wow. All right. So we're scratching out a few.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Last week, I just came up with Herm Edwards and Lee Smith. Lee Smith was a closer with the Cubs.
Trey Burton.
Lee Smith got in the Hall of
Switch
Fame,
numbers.
right? I thought
He
that was
did,
the whole.
yeah,
Lee
he
Smith
did,
yeah.
led, but it was like the career leader in saves, but they did not let him in for a while, and eventually they did.
Yeah.
Mm.
Declan, do you have anything cooked up for
Do
on or
I
around
have-
the state?
Do I have anything cooked up? Thank you so much for joining us for On or Around This Date.
The twinkle's back in his eye.
Oh, I miss this segment so much. We'll start back in 1928, obviously with the birthday section, the birthdays portion of this glorious segment. On this day in 1928, this famous American director was born, arguably one of the best of all time.
Hitchcock?
No.
Was Hitchcock
Right
even
track,
American?
What's that?
Was Hitchcock even American?
Not sure. Not his birthday, so I know nothing about him.
No, he was English. That's my fault.
1920.
1928. Is he still
1928.
alive?
You know,
Francis
I'm
Kubrick.
quite
Kubrick.
sure. You-
Francis
Kubrick.
Ford Coppola?
No. What'd you
Kubrick.
say? Kubrick?
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick.
There
There we go.
On this day in 1945, this British actress was also born. I know her by 3 names. A title, a regal.
Oh,
title.
the Dame Judi Dench.
Close.
or-
Right title, wrong person. Oh, she might not
Julie
be.
Andrews?
No, she
No,
might
she's
actually
not.
not be. I might actually be wrong.
About the whole thing? Or
No. She's definitely a British actress, a very famous British actress.
Michelle Pfeiffer. She's not British.
Iconic voice, I would say too.
Not Jane
I have no
Seymour.
clue.
Here, I'll give you
Yeah,
a
my
movie.
time period.
I'll give
Yeah.
you a movie. Hold on.
I thought you said you were.
No, I was right about the title thing. Okay. Let's see. Good movie. Good movie. Good movie. One that I know.
We got to get the chemistry back. We're
National Treasure. What? F9. Shazam. F8.
Wait. So this is an iconic actress that you're listing Fast and the
These
Furious movies for?
Yeah,
She is iconic. I just can't think of a famous movie.
it
she's
wouldn't.
in.
I wouldn't necessarily call these.
I apologize.
movies.
You and I would differ, my friend.
Yes, it's
Known for The Queen.
Helen
Yes.
Mirren.
She is.
She won an
Oh,
Oscar for The
yes,
Queen.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
listed Fast and the Furious 8 and 9 before her
Yes.
Academy Award winning.
Had not heard of The Queen.
Is she a
Not gonna
dame?
lie.
Is she
She
Dame
is a
Helen
dame.
Mirren?
She is
Okay.
actually.
Do you
I
know
don't know
who
what
she-
distinguishes that.
You know
It's
what
The
title?
female equivalent being knighted?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
Wow.
Do you know which famous actor she used to date and live with?
I do.
No.
He has a very particular set of skills.
Oh, Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I just
Oh, go
watched
ahead.
The Gray with him again, where it's him with wolves in the wilderness, and you think it's just like a wolf thing. In reality, it's an allegory for purgatory. That's how I'm spending my free
It
time.
always is. It always is. On this day in 1964, this famous American actress and producer was born. She, one of her famous roles includes being the boss of Ryan Reynolds before they
So,
were
Sandra
fake
Bullock.
engaged. Yes.
Sandra Bullock went to
I love
which
that
college?
movie.
ECU. Pride of
ECU.
I love that movie. Anyway, moving out of birthdays, on this day in 1775,
Dang.
1775, a little bit of a throwback for you. On this day in 1775, this U.S. government service was established by the Second Continental Congress, and Benjamin Franklin was named its first head.
Oh,
The Postal Service?
The Postal Service.
yeah.
On this day-
Didn't he go to France right after that? Why was he head of the postal service if he is pieced?
That's a great question. you know?
We should ask him.
He invented email. On this day in 1943, this major American city experienced its first major smog as a, quote, hellish cloud descended on the city, limiting visibility to 3 blocks.
San Francisco.
No.
That's a good guess, though.
Smog or fog?
Smog.
L.A.
Oh,
Los Angeles.
there you go.
Believed to be in part due to the exhaust from vehicles, which imagine that.
Yeah.
Stupid.
On this day in 1948, this U.S. president signed Executive Order 9981, which abolished racial segregation in the U.S. military.
Well, it's 48, so Truman.
Harry S. Truman. And finally, on this day in 2016, Johnny, you might remember this year, at the Democratic National Convention, Hillary Clinton was officially nominated for president, becoming. I just gave it away.
I was saying, just give the answer, but the question was going to be who was the nominee in 2016?
No, because it was gonna be like I was gonna say like what did she become the first to do, and then I almost said it. So then I just
You use it in a
she
sentence.
became the first woman on top of a presidential ticket in the U.S. history, and that was the worst
It's
ending
topical.
to on this date that we've ever had, and I apologize.
It's okay. You're knocking the rust off. You're just getting some swings in the batting cage.
I
We're not
am,
looking
yeah,
for
you know.
production. We're just looking for fluidity.
Just put the ball in
Yeah.
play.
I tried, I did. Tough. We'll be back next week.
Johnny,
though.
what sort of baseball analogy would you make to describe Declan's performance there?
I'd say he went 0 for 4 with a sack fly because he had a good run of like 2 questions there.
Also known as the Whit Merrifield stat
What are you
line.
talking about?
Okay, what were you saying?
That's also known as the Whit Merrifield stat line.
That is
Yes.
100% correct.
All I'm gonna say is, how many of those did you answer?
None.
Yeah.
Because they were all in like there were 3 of them were in like 1770. Wasn't around.
Are you
When was the Postal Service founded? Come on, bro. Ben Franklin. It's
Postal
like
Service also shares a name with a pretty solid early 2000s kind of emo-y band, the Postal Service. Listening up, getting your feelings. Make a mixtape for your high school girlfriend. It works.
You know from experience, Kyle?
Yeah, that was what I was referencing. Correct.
Johnny's getting fired up.
I was gonna make a joke. I'm not gonna make
I was gonna say, Kyle, are you prepared for Whit Merrifield to just go like 15 of his next 18?
I mean,
at
you
the
saw
plate?
what happened, right? His first, he was taking fielders. He blew up his pinky his
Yeah.
first day with the Braves.
Is he out for how long now?
It was
No,
day
he's
day,
day to day.
actually.
He was available to
Ah.
pinch hit yesterday.
They would,
He,
appreciate
Okay.
that. They would appreciate that.
All right.
He's trying to get bigger, faster, stronger.
All right.
1% better.
Declan, that's something for you to shoot for.
We all have
1%
rough
better
days.
next week.
We all have rough days.
So before we get to this Jameel Brown interview, tell us about the final results
Oh, I'd be happy to.
of the OwlScoop Summertime Madness. There you go, Kyle. Pumped his fist. Summertime Madness results pitting Maxie's against Richie's. Not Richie's Cafe, but Richie's.
The Wall. Yep. Let's put it out there. They're both winners, right? The two iconic venues on Temple's campus. Going
Disagree.
head to head. Disagree?
Disagree.
By which part?
One of them is an absolute icon. The other one I am not a patron of.
Oh, interesting. We'll leave that out, just in case we get sponsorships. But I think two iconic venues. When you think Temple food, you'd probably think these two establishments, at least very quickly. Obviously, Maxie's had a heck of a run, really blowing out opponents in every round, including in the Final Four, getting to this final spot. Richie's, however, pulled out a couple close ones. Some good wins over quality opponents. I mean, the whole tournament just exciting. Top. It was a good inaugural year for the tournament. On Instagram, okay, Richie's and Maxie's. Maxie's took 62% of the Instagram vote and then took 55% of the Twitter vote. Maxie's is our summertime madness food bracket
Let's
champion.
go.
The OwlScoop fans have spoken. Maxie's is the best place on campus.
Initial thoughts on that? Is this what you expected?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. I mean, they dominated the field. I said it however many weeks ago. If Maxie's beat Pub Web, they were going to win the whole thing, and that's what they did. I mean, it's a good win. It's a good win by a good establishment.
Probably the most consistent claim you've been making all year, all season.
What's that?
That if they get past Pub Web,
Mm-hmm.
that's
And
like
they did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did.
I mean, good for them. It's an icon. It was better when it was one row home with instead of two, but it's still a very good bar.
Johnny Ramir, any strong thoughts on this?
No, I think this is just another case of just a top seed coming in and taking care of business.
Yeah, this is UConn. This is
Yeah,
UConn.
This is UConn.
That's the perfect
Not the
analogy for
sexy
it.
pick, but the obvious pick.
It's
Danny
chalk, right? Like you're just like, oh man, like am I gonna win my office pool by choosing Maxie's? No, but like they're gonna win.
Gets the job done.
Danny Hurley's going to be behind the bar next week.
That'd be
Turned down offers from bigger bars.
kind of crazy.
I turned down an offer from Fox and the Hound.
My favorite, my memory of Maxie's. Well, I was just there, 2 months ago. But before that, the summer after I graduated, I was still living on campus for a summer, and I went to Maxie's a lot. And then I went to California for a week on vacation. Came back, and the Maxie's bartender said, "Oh my God, thank God, I thought you were dead." Like he didn't see me for a
Is that
week.
good
He
or
was
bad?
concerned he didn't see me for a week.
I mean, that's just the A1 service that they provide. Remembering their frequent clientele,
Good win, I guess.
Yeah, good win. Good
You
win.
guys have favorite Maxie's memories?
I'm gonna go ahead and say no. I don't think so.
Anything that won't get you guys in trouble?
Hmm.
No,
I got
I
to
don't
watch
think so.
Declan sing karaoke at Maxie's. But
Oh yeah, that's right. I
You
forgot
saw
about that.
Declan sing karaoke. at
Not just
Maxie's.
Declan.
Declan and Gable.
No, it was you and me, wasn't it?
No,
We did. Yeah, well, I don't think Ramir went that time. I think.
What
that's what I was
song
thinking of.
did you do?
What song? We did Dial Drunk
Yeah,
by Noah
Noah
Khan
Khan.
and Post
But
Malone.
no,
Yeah,
it's a hard karaoke song.
It is, but we killed it.
we did kill it.
Did you do the Post Malone remix?
Yeah, we
Yes,
did.
Of course.
Who did Post Malone?
Both of us at the same time.
Yeah,
Simon
We
King
couldn't
said-
choose.
She said we couldn't choose.
I think it worked out.
Yeah.
There were people dancing, cheering.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, we had that one guy breakdancing in front of us. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
wrong song, but I appreciate the effort.
Before we get to the Jameel Brown interview, what did we learn from this year's inaugural OwlScoop Summertime Madness food bracket? What would you like to do differently next year? What do you think do a mini, maybe like a 90-second SWOT analysis of this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, we should expand the voting, I think, a little more and go all throughout summer. That's on me. I got a full-time, part-time job, as my bosses like to say, so ran out of time. But I think the biggest thing is including more places. I think making a bigger tournament, probably expanding the field. And then obviously, getting the committee to actually vote on the ranking system so that, we don't get complaints afterward of, oh, why is this place ranked like this? When it's only 2 people of the 5 that put in their votes. So, and then
You and I.
I want to interrupt that. How are you going to make that happen? Because you tried that this time, and
I'm probably going to be gone. I mean, let's be honest. I'm probably not going to be here. So you take that up with Ryan. He'll figure it out. Ryan will ask you.
What if Ryan does a better job next year of
Yeah.
running the house?
Yeah, I thought you were a little optimistic by calling it the inaugural. I was like, we're going to do this again.
Sure you are.
So we're going to do
Probably not food. You'll probably do. You could rank something else.
which of these 4 bars is the best bar?
Say classes?
Buildings.
Ramir's trying to give me a hard way to go on Temple's campus. listen to your podcast. Are you the guy?
The best major.
Are you the guy that ripped my intellectual heritage class?
I
No, but I can
make the
put you in
tournament.
touch with the guy.
I just a playing team for sure.
That's being generous then, giving them a play-in.
I love Gilgamesh. They still make you do Gilgamesh in
They
intellectual
do
heritage?
still make us
Yeah.
do the Gilgamesh.
Where is advanced sports reporting?
Oh no!
That's a 1 seed.
Thank you.
Good answer. Good answer.
I was thinking
Johnny
4.
doesn't feel the same way.
I was thinking 4 seed, to be honest. But makes a good run, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
Upset watch.
I thought I still had Gilgamesh on my bookshelf from that class, but I do not. I must have sold it for 13 cents.
you sold it last week.
Must
on
have
Facebook.
thrown it away directly after class.
Sold it on Facebook Marketplace. Got $27 for it.
Nice.
Guy talked me down from 30. Anyway, let's get to playing this Jameel Brown interview for you guys. Like I said, talked to him when he first committed out of the transfer portal, and he's healthy now. Was dealing with a broken bone in his right foot during part of last season at Penn State, but he's healthy now. Good shooter. Whether he starts, whether he comes off the bench, we'll see. But a key piece for Temple out of the portal. He knows Adam Fisher. Well, you'll hear him talk about this. Adam's been recruiting him since he was an assistant at Miami under Jim Larinaga, and then coached him as an assistant at Penn State. There was a lot of speculation that he might transfer to Temple prior to last season. That did not happen, but he's here now. Talks about growing up in North Philly, grew up right near the corner of 20th and Diamond, and is excited about being home and excited about the roster around him. So we'll play this interview for you, and we have a lot more on the other side, including some updates on our recent basketball recruiting coverage. Temple sent out a lot of offers recently, and again, we're going to be giving you an indication of what our preseason football camp coverage is going to look like and some key questions heading into camp. So again, here's Jameel Brown, my interview with him, and we'll have more for you on the other side. Jameel, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it. I guess it's been, I talked to you late April after you committed, and I remember one of the things that you said was, as a guy who grew up around here, you want to put Temple back on the map, and a lot of people say that. I know you're close with Shiz. You've seen when Temple's been doing really well, and I'm sure if you didn't, you had people around here telling you about the late March runs that Temple used to be on. Now that you've been here a couple of months working out with these guys, how does that look to you now? Do you think you have the pieces here to have a season where you guys could put Temple back on the map?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I dream about it a lot. Like, sometimes I have some trouble going to sleep just thinking about all the accomplishments that we can do this year with the pieces that we have. So yeah, I mean, just growing up in Philadelphia and seeing like the Temple all around North Philadelphia, and just hearing about the stories of John Chaney and Khalif Wyatt, Lynn Greer II, Shiz Austin. So just having that Temple on your chest and knowing that we can do some great things this year is definitely really a dream for me. How do you feel? Just we talked about your injury and you played through a lot of pain. How do you feel now? How does your foot feel, and just how do you feel just months removed from that? Yeah, I mean, my toe feels pretty good. Probably back to 100% on that. Just staying in a trainer's room, getting treatment, even when things are not even hurting, just staying on top of things and making sure doing a lot of injury prevention things like that. So I've definitely been feeling pretty good. Body's doing really well right now. What does that look like when you talk about like the injury prevention and stuff? Like, what do you do beyond like just the normal conditioning stuff? Like, how do you try to prevent
breaking a bone in your right foot again, sometimes bad luck is bad luck. But if you had to talk a fan through that, what does that look like? What does that injury prevention stuff look like?
Honestly, Coach Ason, he does a great job with us, you know, in the weight room every day, doing a lot of injury prevention stuff, getting our knees stronger, hips looser, things like that. So I really just feel like it's like getting loose before practice, stretching at night, you know, hydrating, just putting the right things in your body, you know, and also just keeping your mental health strong. You know, it's a lot of pressure on student athletes in today's world. So just making sure that your head's on straight.
You've been good for a long time. You were a highly recruited guy. People knew about you at Haverford School in West Town. People were following your career. So people have known about Jameel Brown for a long time. How do you feel like you've dealt with pressure? Have you always kind of rolled with it, or have you been the type of guy that's been like hard on yourself sometimes?
I feel like I've definitely just rolled with it. My parents do a great job with me of keeping me humble. You know, I try not to really think of myself in that way. You know, I just go out there and play basketball, and all the other things just come with it. But yeah, I feel like I've been really good with my mental health. Obviously, sometimes, you know, I have my days, which is like everybody. But I feel like I've been doing pretty good with that, and just staying humble, honestly. Like, that's really my biggest thing. You know, anything can happen at any given time, you know. So I just give thanks to the Most High every day.
How does your shot feel? Everybody knows that you can shoot. You've been able to shoot since you were in high school. And I think when you committed, we talked about, you know, obviously when you have a broken bone in your foot and you're trying to play through that, it affects everything. You're not going to get the lift. The whole production doesn't go well. Now that your foot is healthier, and it sounds like you're as healthy as you've been in a long time, do you kind of like think like, oh, wow, things feel a little bit easier now because my whole body is working together on this?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, you know, just having your whole body work together, and also your foot. Like, your foot is probably the most important thing. I mean, if you can't really walk or jump or anything or cut in basketball, you know, it'll be tough for you. But yeah, just feeling good about my body right now. Standing in the weight room, trainer's room, and, you know, just having my feet or my toe feel a lot better right now. It helps me with my game and just help me move more fluid.
I asked Mateo this because he can really shoot, and his motion looks effortless. Your motion looks really good and technically sound. Were you always, obviously everybody has to work at their game, but was shooting something that always kind of came naturally to you? Like, how did you learn to become the good shooter that you are?
Honestly, I wasn't a good shooter until about 6th or 7th grade. I had a coach named Coach Mike. He really just gave me the confidence to shoot. That was the first thing. It was the confidence to just start shooting the ball, because I really was I wanted to drive. But after a couple of years, you know, he just gave me the confidence to shoot the ball, and I feel like that's what started it. And then after that, when I realized how good I can shoot, after that, I just started to just get a lot of reps in. So, you know, I feel like that's the biggest thing, you know, just reps. I feel like when you get in the gym, like, and prepare, like, it removes all doubts and anxiety about your game. So
is that when it starts coming together though? Like, you know, I was never a D1 ball player, but like, I remember being a kid and you kind of like push the ball up, and then when you start getting stronger and you can actually like have the ball go off your fingertips, like, oh, this feels better now. Is that kind of just when you started like growing up and getting stronger, where you could do the things that you're doing now? Yeah,
for sure. You know, just it was kind of hard for me to get my mechanics back then. Obviously, it was a lot of different things that I wanted to work on, but I feel like as I found my niche in the game and found what I could do, I just started to get a lot of reps in and watch different great shooters and their techniques and their feet and how, you know, they align the ball. You know, just trying to take a lot of different things from great shooters and, you know, just implement it into my game.
You mentioned being younger and saying I just wanted to drive all the time. I would see that as a good thing, right? Because some people don't have that confidence and they just want to camp out along the perimeter. And if a coach says, you got to put the ball on the floor now, and they might be like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to go to my left. I'm not as confident. I think I'm going to get picked. Are you glad that you had that mentality? Because, again, some shooters don't want to drive to the rim.
No, yeah, for sure. I feel like that was a big thing for me when I came here to Temple. Coach Fish, you know, he talked about wanting me to not just be a shooter, wanted me to facilitate, get in the paint, play off 2 feet, you know, things like that, and just be able to drive and give opportunities to my teammates to score the ball as well, and just not just be a shooter. So I feel like that mentality definitely carried over to now.
Adam was a big reason why you went to Penn State. He recruited you there. Now that you've been here a couple months, obviously you've seen him in practices as an assistant, but now that you've seen him running the whole show as a head coach, Any different, the same, a little bit of both? How have you seen him now just running his own program?
I would say it's definitely kind of the same. He's always been the same guy since when I was a sophomore in high school when he's recruited me at Miami. It's definitely kind of funny to see him as a head coach at that perspective, but he's very on it, like very on top of us, and I just feel like he's always going to be the same guy, always going to be the same energetic guy to give us confidence on the court and just let us play out there. But yeah, it's definitely been a great thing to see as he's a head coach in his career. And
when you committed, and when I talked to you a couple months ago, I think you said you took note of like the run that they made and almost got like they go through a 10-game losing streak, and then they're a game away from going to the NCAA tournament. And a lot of the guys said we've just got good chemistry. We didn't give up. I know that's easier said than done. Now that you've been here, are you starting to see that, and you starting to see that make sense? Again, even though some guys left, no roster's the same now in 2024, but what does that look like to you now that you're a part of it in terms of like the chemistry off the court and how you guys work together?
Oh man, I mean it's been really great, especially coming from a team where in my previous years it's definitely a lot different. Our camaraderie right now is pretty good, well, really good actually. I would say we always on Xbox or PS5 playing Madden or any NCAA. But yeah, I mean, just having that camaraderie, and as they said, like they made that run like throughout the whole year. I feel like that's a very great thing that they did last year, and I feel like being close off the court would definitely like translate to on the court because you want to fight for those guys. We had a little meeting a couple of days ago, and we talked about, and we wanted to give one thing good that we knew about somebody's game, just to get to know each other, because it's the summertime now, so just building that foundation and to just know these guys so we can have a good run in March.
You mentioned Lynn earlier, and again, when we talked a few months ago, you talked about how you guys have known each other for a long time, and there's a guy who, just like a lot of people knew about you, all eyes were on him, whether he liked it or not, is constantly being compared to his dad. Is he as good? Is he going to be better? And now, heading into what's probably going to be his final season, I've heard a lot of people say, like, man, he is just all business. He's really just knows what to do on the court, off the court. You talk to him, he just sounds like a really mature guy. How have you kind of seen him grow up throughout the years, and what's it like to be able to play with him now?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Lynn grow up through high school team final days and Roman Catholic, but it's definitely been a pleasure just to be around him these past couple months, getting to know him even more. I knew him for a while, but just to be around him and just hang out and stuff like that, it's definitely been a pleasure. And just knowing how hard he works and knowing how hard he's going to come back and just be good for us this year.
Another guy that I had a chance to talk to, again, around the time when you committed, Jamal Mashburn Jr., similar thing where like his dad's a multi-year pro in the NBA, an NBA All-Star, and when I talked to him, he just I felt like I was talking to somebody who was like in his mid-40s instead of his 20s. I know like he's had to come along slowly and he's still recovering from an injury, but what's it been like to be around him so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's wise behind his years, man. It's definitely been a pleasure again to be around Mashburn and just being able to pick his brain and talk about the things that he liked to do and things that I like to do, just getting ready for the season, man. I feel like it's definitely all business between like everybody on the team, so I feel like it's definitely going to help us.
What have you seen from Aiden Tobias and so far? There's a guy who his recruitment came together really quickly. Heading into like his senior season, people thought, maybe this kid's a low D1, D2 kid, and his recruitment just took off and really started to blow up. And I know he's athletic, had a really good senior season. You've been where he was before. Highly recruited guy, or even you were more highly recruited than he was, but coming in as a freshman, you're good, everybody's good, but maybe your head's swimming. What have you seen from him, and how often do you maybe talk to him and kind of help him through the transition of being
I mean, he's been doing great in practice, knocking shots down, playing good defense, things like that. I just feel like for him, I think just keep working. Honestly, like that was the biggest thing for me when I was a freshman, just put my head down, just keep working, whatever the coach says to do, whatever the older guys say to do, just kind of follow in their lead. He's been doing a really good job, and I think he's going to help us this year.
In the little bit of time that you've seen so far, how much of a jolt do you think that Dylan Battie could give you guys?
Dylan, man. Dylan and Aiden, they're both really good, and I think they can help us a lot this year. Dylan, he's very athletic, can jump, can shoot it, all-around guy. I really think that he's going to be really good. Those guys are going to be great for Temple basketball. throughout the year. So I think they're going to help us a lot this year.
What about a scouting report on a guy like Elijah Gray and even a guy like Mohamed Keita? And when I talked to Mo, he's like, I'm still working on my game, starting to feel more confident, but 7-1, 7-1. What can you tell me about him and then a versatile guy like Elijah too?
Sorry, Elijah, he's my roommate, so, we get along really well off the court and on the court. I think he's very versatile. He's going to help us a lot on the ball and off the ball, and his defensive presence. He can knock shots down. He can guard a lot of different positions. And I feel like Mo is going to be really good for us as well, big body, tall guy, 7 foot, you can't teach that. And just his energy, he's going to definitely help us a lot on the defense and his presence.
Talk to me about being home, and by that I mean – you've gone through this. Like when you're a really good basketball player in Philly, I feel like from the outside looking in, you guys probably go through this push and pull. Over the years, it almost seems cool to go away and see something else. If you grow up in the city, people are like, get away, get away. If you're getting recruited, you committed to Purdue, then Penn State. And all the local schools are trying to keep a guy like you home, trying to keep Lynn home, trying to keep, over the years, like Jalen Bond, Devin Coleman. And you talked about, going back to what we talked about before, putting Temple back on the map. And part of that is like, in my eyes, like making it cool to like be home and like staying in Philly. What's that like? When you're in high school, do you have all these people in your ear saying like, Jameel, you get out of here, go see something different? And then when you come home and you have some perspective and you feel as good as you do now, what's it like to kind of like go through that process?
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
makes sense.
Definitely a roller coaster of emotions. As you said, the family always wants to push you to get out of Philadelphia to see things differently. But I feel like you'll always love home. Like you'll always feel comfortable being home. I've lived here for 18 years of my life, so I just feel like being home is definitely comforting. I go home to my mom's house for home cooked meal 3 days a week, so you can't beat that. Yeah, you definitely can't beat that. So it's just like it's definitely a roller coaster, but I feel like at the end of the day, Temple and Philadelphia will provide you with a lot of great resources and things like that you would need for the rest of your life.
Does it sometimes take going away to see that perspective where staying home when you're coming out of high school doesn't seem like the coolest thing in the world, and when you come back and say, okay, it's actually not so bad?
Yeah, I mean, at Penn State, all I wanted to do was come home on the weekends, like when we had a break or something like that. All I wanted to do was come home, just be with my family. And then now that I'm home, it really feels good just to be in a comforting space.
Tell me about your family, because before I met you in person today or followed your career, you're a good basketball player, but everybody would always say he's a really nice kid. And that would just, not just conversationally, but people would go out of their way to talk about that. I know it sounds like the most basic thing, but not everybody's nice, and I have to imagine that comes from your family, the people that you surround yourself with. Tell me about your family and just growing up and the influence that they had on you.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a 2-parent household, have 2 brothers and 1 sister. My family parents provided a lot for us, but I feel like the biggest thing they taught me was to be humble and stay patient. I feel like that's really the biggest lesson that they taught me, being humble. Is just knowing that things could be worse. Obviously you see a lot of different horrible things in Philadelphia, growing up and going to the parks and things like that, and just being humble and just being patient. I feel like they really grounded me at a really young age, and I feel like that definitely took a toll on me. I just wanted to be like that, just wanted to be like my parents when I grew up.
I wanted to ask you about NIL and the Tough Fund here. It seems like the stuff that they've been doing, there is actually a purpose connected to it, the stuff that they've done with Quante, and how much does that have a role now? Because I think sometimes people see NIL as a negative, but it can change lives, not just for the players, but for the service that you guys do. How do you see that component to it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see it from both ends, changing others' lives and also changing my life as well. I have a basketball camp set up in August 18th. It's free for all kids. I just want to target impoverished kids in Philadelphia, because when I was growing up and I wanted to go to a basketball camp, it would be $150 for 2 days. So now I want to be able to put myself in their shoes, because I've been there, just want to just give the kids a free camp, come get some food, work, listen, things like that, book bag drives, just being able to change people's lives, because I've had people to change my life as well.
Who were the other people, like, beyond your parents, and you had good coaches at Westtown and Haverford? Who were some of the other people that people may not know about who looked out for you and helped you as a coach or a mentor, like on or off the court?
I would say my team final coaches, Coach James and Coach Wayne.
Yeah.
And also, I would also say Tony Carr. I've grew up to watch him. He's like a great family friend. He played basketball with my cousin, and he's kind of like a big brother to me. I go to him for advice, like for everything, like just anything in the basketball realm. So just having those guys, like other than my parents, just having a different voice and having different perspectives, because they've been through it, and they just want me to do well in life.
I wanted to ask you about Shiz Alston too. I remember somewhere along the way you put on Twitter, like I think you tweeted him and said you're the reason why I wear number 10. I thought it might have been because of Tone as well. He wore 10.
Yeah,
right?
he
but
wore
like
10.
tell me about Shiz and that relationship and why you guys are close.
Yeah, I mean, Shiz went to the Haverford school.
Yep.
I went to the Haverford school, and now I'm at Temple. So just growing up and watching him, I think the last Temple game I've been to was when he was playing. So I feel like it's just kind of full circle, and just seeing how well he played here, seeing how well Temple took care of him, and, just have that number 10 in my back. He'll always definitely be on my mind. Hopefully I'll have some of his skills when I play.
Was he an influence on you as well? Because like, again, Shiz, you sit and talk to him and he can, I mean, like now, like he's still playing internationally, but he has some good perspective on like the portal, NIL, still has strong feelings for Fran Dunphy and what he's doing at LaSalle, but loves Temple, and he kind of just gets it. Is he a guy that was influential for you because of that, because of the way he's wired and the perspective that he has?
Yeah, for sure. I see a lot of things that he talk about, just knowing him and knowing his perspective and knowing his mind and the things that he's been through, and just knowing how hard he worked to get where he is. And I mean, he has a right to feel every way that he feels, because he's been through it and he's proved himself throughout the years. So I just feel like just knowing him and his influence definitely helped me.
What about Cam Winter? I think when you committed, we talked about that. Like now he's getting into coaching, and he's not that much older than you guys. I'm sure he gets this all the time, but he worked really hard, kept telling Fish, like, I want to coach. And Fish was telling him, like, you probably go overseas and play for a little while and make some money. I want to make sure you want to do this. Now that he's here, you were with him at Penn State. What's it like to see him now growing into his role as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing really good of making that transition. We don't obviously we definitely have that history of being like teammates at Penn State, but now it's like strictly business now. Like he's my coach. He's a coach now, so he's definitely been really good. I've seen him play. I've seen him work hard. He just gave me that blueprint that I've seen him put the work in. So he's definitely been great.
Couple more questions for you, and again, I really appreciate your time doing this. Is there a guy on the team so far that where there's is something on the court or off the court that's someone who's really done something where this really caught your eye, like, wow, that guy really is better than I thought he was going to be? Someone who's like really stood out and impressed you. And I know you probably want to say, yeah, all the guys, but like someone who's really kind of caught your eye and made you think like, wow, that was really impressive.
I would say Steve Settle. I love Steve Settle's energy. I love how well he leads, how well he shoots, and how versatile he is. We always play Madden back and forth. We always, chirp at each other a little bit, but I see him put the work in. I see how hard he works. He's going to be really great for us this year. He's going to be one of our leaders this year.
And you talked about just you grew up right near 20th and Diamond, right?
Yep.
When you walk home and you want to see your family and have a home cooked meal, what do you like to eat? Like if you had to say, like, I'm coming home, I want this. What are you looking forward to eating?
I would probably say my dad makes really good chicken teriyaki over yellow rice. But,
sounds good.
Last night my mom made turkey burgers. A couple nights ago she made shrimp and chicken Cajun pasta. So just
really good.
it's very wholesome. It's definitely good for the soul for sure.
What is that like being a number of blocks away from home, where like you've got your own place here, but then they're like you could run home in a couple of minutes.
Right.
Like how do you balance out saying like I love them, I could get over there in a couple minutes, but I'm trying to like live my life here.
Right.
Is it kind of like the best of both worlds? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job of giving me space. Obviously, like they know I'm a growing young man, so they want to give me my space and know that they're here for me. But it's always no place like home. Just going home, chill with my family, my nephew, my brother. Just going home and just being able to just be with my family is definitely very great. It feels very good.
Thanks, man. All right, so good stuff there from Jameel Brown. Again, we're going to try to get more interviews for you guys, the newcomers, some of the returning players. Again, we've sat down with Matteo Picarelli, sat down with Quante Berry, Jameel Brown, and we'll have more for you in the coming weeks. Talked about some of the recruiting news on the basketball front. Things are starting to get down to crunch time with the 2025 class. Another name that entered the mix is Cam Miles. You might see him listed as a combo guard, but he's more of a point guard. I'm told he's going to be playing this season at IMG Academy. Ramir and Colin Schofield, a new addition to our staff, kind of double bylined this story. So if you're an OwlScoop.com subscriber, you can check that out. Another name to pay attention to. And a lot of 2026 and 2027 offers, including one, the big 2027 offer went out to Dawson Batee. He is the younger brother of Dylan Batee and the son of former Temple forward Derek Batee. He's unranked by Rivals right now. ESPN has him as the 25th overall player in the 2027 class. So, a no-brainer to offer him as long as he keeps going on the trajectory he's on. He's a stud. Manny Saeed from Plymouth White Marsh, Malik Fields, Angelo Dickerson, and Zahir Muhammad Gray all picked up Temple offers on Monday. They're from the 2026 class. So some names to pay attention to there as well. We'll have more coverage on those guys. And we'll have more football recruiting coverage as well. The Owls are still at 6 verbal commits in the 2025 class. That leads us nicely into preseason camp, year 3 of the Stan Drayton era. The Owls were picked dead last in the preseason media poll, behind Charlotte. Well, behind everybody. Everybody, to be more specific, just in case anybody needed to know what last place meant.
Are they in front of someone?
We're gonna beat this down to a pulp. Again, not too surprising. Preseason polls are what they are, but next week camp starts on the 29th, I believe.
That's their report date.
Yeah. So reporting to camp on the 29th. As far as I know, we're going to get Stan Drayton on Zoom and the coordinators next week as well. So Danny Langsdorf and Everett Wither. So obviously a ton to ask those guys about, because there are very few positions we would say that are really shored up. Let's look at maybe, again, there are a ton of storylines heading into camp.
Mm-hmm.
But let's narrow it down to 3. I want to touch on at least the first one. To me, agree or disagree with this one. I think the offensive line has to be one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one. And the reason I say that, beyond the obvious stuff, beyond the fact that they need to get a lot better, we'd be fooling ourselves to think that Evan Simon or Forrest Brock are just going to come in and be 50 times better than the limited scope that we got of them. And yes, we are allowing for maybe a guy like Chris Dietrich comes in and does something close to what EJ Warner did. Could happen. We'll see. He has an opportunity to come in and do that. But I think we've said this in previous episodes. If they win 5 or 6 games and they somehow become bowl eligible, we think it's probably going to be because other areas, other facets of the game pick up for quarterback play. And that's not going to happen without a solid to much better offensive line. Agree or disagree? Am I nuts for thinking that or no?
No, why would you be? I mean,
Kyle can come up with some reasons. Kyle can
well, maybe
come up with some
yeah,
reasons for
go
why
right
I'm nuts.
ahead.
You could boil down that question of, does a good offensive line help the team?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the insight you're subscribing to.
Wow. Whoa. It's like the Drake Liliati meme where he's like, oh.
I think that's just I think that's the number one storyline entirely because it's year 3 of that storyline, right? Like every year that has kind of been the case of is the offensive line going to finally take that step? And last year, they just did not have the depth. And it sounds weird saying this because they just lost, Victor Stoffel to Cal. They're going to have a new center. All this stuff is you feel like that would really set them back, but it feels like they have better depth and a higher ceiling than they did last year, despite the turnover on the offensive line.
Well, and the issue is going to be too, you said it's year 3. It's also pretty much going to be the third year. Well, at least there were 2 straight years of revolving door offensive lines too, where it was like you're not sure who's going to line up. So that almost consistency could be good too to potentially, they have more shot at being consistent with their lineups on the offensive line than they have, I guess, in previous years with the amount of depth they have. So that could be nice too, where maybe they don't have to cross train as much because they have more guys that can focus on separate
I
positions.
think they're going to cross train regardless. Like I think that's,
Well,
that's
yeah,
Chris
sure, but
Weezing's philosophy, right? Is that everyone learns all 5 positions and so on and so forth. But yeah, in the natural world, like, look, I mean, I've never played offensive line. Do I think there's that
That's
much?
not what I heard.
If you ask Jordan Mailata, there's a big difference between left tackle and right tackle, right? Like
Right.
it's learning to write with your other hand. In my mind, though, I can take a right guard and put him at left guard and like kind of be okay.
Mhm.
Center is the one position that I'm like, you can't cross train everybody, man. Like not every offensive lineman can play center. You can't. Victor Stoffel at 6'8" could not have played center last year.
Right.
Like it just can't happen. So like you would hope that at least whether that's Grayson Maines, whether that's Wisdom Corshi, that they find somebody that can kind of just be like, look, I'm your 12-game starter at center, because I think that's kind of everything spirals from there.
Let me ask you guys this. If we are, well, 2 things to look out for. I think number 1, they obviously have to stay healthy. I think another interesting storyline I don't have written down here is how healthy are they going to be? Because they were long overdue for new turf at Chodoff Field. The turf is down.
Yeah.
They're excited about that. You wish every team good health and happiness at the beginning of the year, and we'll see if that cuts down on some injuries. So they got to stay healthy because we know how unhealthy they've been. If we are in early December talking about this team and saying, how about that? They went 6-6 and they're going to get into some low-level bowl game. And the offensive line was better. It was obviously it's a cohesive unit. Think of any cliche you want. But in December, if we're talking about them being a better football team and a better offensive line, it's because this guy had a really good season and was kind of a catalyst. Who do you think? Is it a Wisdom Corsi? Is it a Grayson Maines? Is it somebody else? Who would jump out at you for whatever it's worth as we're recording this on July 25th? Who's a guy that comes in and impresses and has a good season and makes a tangible difference on the offensive line for this team? I have my answer who I think it could be, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I feel like the obvious one will be Wisdom Corshi because he's kind of been here and we got to see him last year a little bit. And I feel like him being in the system for another year might give him a little bit of a leg up over some of the other newcomers. And I feel like, I mean, there were times where you saw stuff there with him where he could be good. He could be a guy that could break out, but then there are other times where that wasn't the case. And I feel like he'd probably be the obvious one for me to come in and kind of, since he knows the system, and come in and be a guy that takes that next step and be an impact player on the offensive line.
Ramir, what do you think?
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to say whoever is on the interior 3. So let's say it's Wisdom, Grayson Maines, and Kevin Terry. Let's say it's those 3 on the interior. Whoever those 3 guard, center, guard, you can get away with bad tackle play. You can play call. You can scheme around that. You can't get away with bad guard, center guard play. And if that combination, whatever that combination is, if that combination can play well and, not allow interior pressure and be able to, run different kind of zone schemes or, whatever they decide to run this year, if those 3 guys can stay healthy, be, a cohesive unit and play well, then they have a chance to be that X factor.
Kyle, what do you think?
I kind of think it's Kevin Terry or Eric King, because I kind of I know what to expect from Wisdom Corshi, right? Like, I hope I kind of know what to expect for Luke Watson. Like, I expect Luke Watson to be a year better, but I've seen him play, right? Kevin Terry, Eric King, maybe even Melvin Siani, that young group that's redshirted last year, I think is they are the fork in the road for the progress of this line. If they really do develop to the point that the coaching staff seems to think they're going to develop to, then I think they have a much better chance of being a better offensive line. So I'll give a non-answer of one of the 3 redshirt freshmen.
See, I think it's Kevin Terry, but I think Kevin Terry bounces out to left tackle.
Yeah,
I think that, and I say bounce out, I think that they've had him play some snaps there. I mean, who is Chris Weezand not excited about if he recruits these guys? I feel like he among that group. And again, like, not to say that Eric King didn't take a step. He was redshirted. Again, he could be really good if they, hope he'll be really good in the interior. I think that they're looking at, and again, I could be proven wrong. You can always be proven wrong with what Chris Wiesahan is planning and cross-training guys, as Kyle said. I think Kevin Terry is a storyline there at left tackle. I think, again, the point you make about, if you get interior pressure up the middle, you're almost always in trouble.
Yeah, SOL.
Yeah, but I think that Kevin Terry might be the guy to watch at left tackle. We will see. Quarterback has to be in the mix, and we don't really have any necessarily new information for you there. I mean, a couple of sources I talked to said that one of the things that the coaching staff tried over the summer was to more or less kind of say to Evan Simon, Forrest Brock, and those guys, like, treat yourself as QB1 this week, over the next 2 weeks, on the field, off the field. What would you do to lead this team, and kind of put them in scenarios like that? But it's a wide open battle. They did not get anybody else in the portal. So as of now, you're looking at Evan Simon, Forrest Brock, Tyler Douglas, Chris Dietrich coming in, and
Patrick
Keller, the walk-on, who they've been impressed with. But
yeah, had a couple good throws in the spring game.
yeah, again, we'll know more a few weeks from now. I think most people know this. They can't, going into the opener at Oklahoma, they can't rep 4 guys in 1 week. So we'll start getting a much better indication on this in a few weeks. But just for fun, and because it's a podcast, gun to your head right now, who's starting the opener? We've talked about this back in the spring, but who do you think starting under center week 1 at Oklahoma?
Forrest Brock.
Why?
I just don't believe that they're in a place to take risks, and this is just solely based off of comments that Stan has made about Evan up until this point, and what we know about him. And I just don't think they'll give him the keys if he doesn't step up in terms of knowledge and of the playbook and confidence and how he plays and stuff like that. So, Forrest.
Declan?
Yeah, I'm going to say Forrest for the same reason, because I feel like they brought in Evan Simon for a reason. I feel like we would know if Evan Simon was going to be the week 1 starter by now. So I think it makes sense to have Forrest, who's had a year in the system, to see what the offense is like, to play with some of the guys on the field. That's not to say Evan Simon doesn't take over, maybe, but week 1, probably Forrest Brock.
John?
Yeah, I'm with these two. I mean, I think there's still a chance for that to change, because I don't think, from what it sounds like, they haven't been blown away by Forrest. So I think Evan Simon still has every chance to come in leading up to the season and get that job. But I think for saying week 1 starter, I think Forrest has that in his hands right now.
Kyle?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I think Evan Simon, for the exact reasons you guys just laid out. Like, it's year 3 of a program. You can't afford to take risks. You brought Evan Simon in for a reason.
Yeah.
We're comparing a guy who's played 1/2 of Division I football and looked bad in it, in Forrest Brock, compared to Evan Simon, who, I'm not saying he's Kurt Warner, right? But he's played in the horseshoe. He's thrown for 300 yards against Iowa. Like, he's a guy that's been in those moments before. I feel like if you just shove Forrest Brock into, hey, let's go first start of your career at Oklahoma, that's the more risky situation than somebody who you would hope has been in the fire before and is going to be less likely to be rattled in a hostile environment.
Yeah, I agree with 100% on that. I think we're also looking at the fact that, like, multiple guys are, barring a major upset, I think you're going to see a couple guys play in the opener, especially if, for whatever variety of reasons, if they're down 28-3 in the first half and the first drive of their opening drive of the third quarter isn't working, then I could see a Forrest Brock coming in, or I could see a Tyler Douglas coming in late, or a Chris Dietrich. We'll see, because I think we've talked about this before, depending on how things go, but these first few games could really be like an audition. Again, every game matters to them, but I agree with Kyle on that point. When we talk about the system too, I think that it's important to remember, Danny Langsdorff talked about this, like, what the system is will probably look a little different this year. And I'm not saying, Tyler Douglas, we know, is the most mobile of this group. but he's behind the rest of the guys as a thrower, as far as we know. But it's, they kept EJ Warner in the pocket because EJ Warner, no matter how much time and energy he spent on trying to get bigger, a little bit more athletic, he was not a mobile quarterback, couldn't do a lot of scrambling. I'll be interested to see, like, if there's a slight bright side to this. They lose EJ Warner, not a bright side to it, but if they say, all right, we had to tailor the offense to what EJ could do, and he gave us a chance. Kyle also noted too, even though they had big numbers from EJ last year, they were still a bad offense because a lot of other things weren't going well around them. What the system, quote unquote, system is this year, I'll be interested to see, because it may not be the same as what they were doing last year, despite the numbers they put up. Evan Simon can, again, he's not super mobile, but he can scramble a little bit more. Forrest, maybe, again, I almost said Kenny Pickett. Same high school, same quarterback
Tyler
coach,
Douglas.
different guy. Tyler Douglas, the most mobile of the group, but I'm feeling Evan Simon on this one. But again, we could be singing a different tune. We don't know how many of the practices, or if any of the practices, will be open in preseason camp. I'm going to guess that none of them will be. Again, appreciate the 2 open practices that we got in the spring, but once you get into August, that's when they start drilling down on stuff like that. But would anybody be surprised if Chris Dietrich is the starter in week 3 and that he emerges like an EJ Warner did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I understand what you're saying. Like, look, this is a staff that's like hasn't been afraid to do that in the past. And like, if he's the best quarterback, he's the best quarterback. But like, yes, that's still a surprise. It's still the outliers. I think every coach in the world in a dream scenario would like to redshirt every single player.
Right.
Right. At least like 10 years ago, that would have been the case, because like you want to build depth and you want them to be a year older. And you want to get old and stay old, blah, blah, blah. But like, if he comes in as a 2-star quarterback and does just take the reins in the span of 7 total weeks, then like, yeah, that's still a surprise.
And this is a guy too who, don't forget, he was the first verbal commitment of the 2024 class, decommitted, was
Right.
thinking of reclassifying, and then recommitted to Temple.
That's something he has in his corner, right? If you're reading tea leaves, maybe the pitch to him became like, hey, this is an open competition.
Yes.
You have a shot
Yep.
here.
Yeah. So we shall see there. Again, you could literally look at any single position here. I mean, I think like the one, if somebody said, who's one bona fide starter you can think of, to me, it's like Dante Atten.
Reese Clark.
Yes, they're good. Again, they're good players on this roster, but virtually every other position, there's going to be competition. What's the third storyline for you guys, among many others? We talked about offensive line, quarterback. What would be storyline number 3 in order of importance? Johnny, what do you have?
For me, I think it's the secondary. I think last year that was a big
Bad.
issue. Very, very bad. I think you're just putting it blatantly. I think you've brought in a couple interesting pieces. Jalen Lewis for one of them. He looked great in those 2 open practices. You have Devontae Owens coming in, transfer. I think Torrey Richardson from UTEP. I think you're bringing in a lot of interesting pieces to that secondary that I think if that can work out well and you can cover a little bit more in the secondary, you might be able to get to the quarterback a little bit quicker, put pressure on, because that's something that they didn't do last year either. And I mean, and you're losing pieces in that secondary. You're losing Jalen McMurray. I mean, Jordan McGee. I mean, he a linebacker. You're losing pieces there, but I also think you're adding some interesting pieces in, and they looked really fast. And if they're able to, be young, be fast, and cause something to happen, I think that could be a big help for this defense going into next year.
I'm going to go the opposite route. I'm going to say the run defense, because I think a big reason why the secondary struggled is because they had to commit to the run more because the front 7 couldn't stop them. So I think that they already were steps behind receivers that were going downfield because they had to go downhill and stop the run on play action and things like that. And they got caught. I think if the run defense can actually like show up at times this year and play better, and maybe that's part of the reason the new scheme was put in. We talked a little bit about in the offseason.
And they got to be healthier too.
And if they have more defensive line depth as well, and they're a little healthier, like maybe that helps us with all of that. But I think their biggest question mark to me isn't the secondary for that reason. It's can they stop the run? Because I think everything needs to start on that defense with stopping the run, because it just killed them last year.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard because everything has been, taken already. But I'll say the health of the receivers, because I think a big reason why the secondary looked so good during those practices that we saw was because John Adams wasn't out there.
Yeah.
Ian Stewart missed one of them, I think. Zay
Mhm.
Baines missed one of them. Who else? Who else? All of them. All of the
Antonio
Antonio
Jones.
Jones.
Antonio
Play
Jones
all.
wasn't healthy for
Like,
the
all
right
of
wing
their
transfer.
guys
Yeah.
were hurt.
Yeah.
And if they can stay healthy, like that's not a good sign. You hurt early, like you may not be able to, recover from not saying that they won't, but you may not be able to recover from it. And we've seen like Ian Stewart can't stay on the field. And he's supposed to be, their one leader, their captain, their best receiver, quotation marks. They have to stay healthy. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is if no one's open.
Putting Reese Clark in a lot of different
Yeah.
motions, formation.
By the way, you could. I think he's
True.
a good player.
Yeah.
I think you could put him in a lot of different formations, but you shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
you,
no.
you should have some people on the
Also
outside.
very, very, very high on Landon Morris too,
Yeah.
who they get this year, who sat out last year as a transfer. So I think tight end's a strength for him. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll kind of split the difference between Declan and Johnny, where I think the linebackers are the biggest question marks to me. I think with the secondary, like, yeah, they're all new faces, except for, Ben Oswike and Elijah Darreville, but like, we haven't seen them yet. Like, I feel like they're still kind of like, you kind of have an expectation of what to see there. And defensive line, I think we've talked ad nauseum. I think it's going to be better because just depth. Linebackers, you're banking on either like one of three JUCO kids, a transfer from MC State, Antoine Santiago getting a little bit better. Like, I feel like every position, which in fairness, yeah, they're transitioning to a 4-3, but one of those three is probably more of like a nickel, like a Jalen Lewis or a Smith Marset that's going to end up playing that. So like, you're really looking at like two more conventional linebacker spots that I really don't know who's going to start. Like, I think Taiwan King might, the transfer from ECU. I think Antoine Santiago might, but like, I truly don't know. So those are the biggest question marks to me.
They got a lot of freshmen coming in too in that linebacker core. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Or even like redshirt guys that just haven't had a chance yet. That now, hey, Andy Rigby's gone, Jordan McGee's gone. Does London Hall finally make that step?
Yeah.
Like, does DJ Woodbury in his final year of eligibility really kind of take over one of those true question marks?
Yeah. So we'll obviously have a ton of football to talk about from here on out. So again, camp begins next week. Stay tuned for more coverage next week. One mailbag question to get to here. This is a good one. This is from our OwlScoop.com message board. In the mailbag, Park Al, one of our OwlScoop.com subscribers. This is for basketball. If you could use a crystal ball right now to find out one player's stats for the 2024-25 season, whose stats would be most informative for determining how Temple as a team did for the season? You may use a Ouija board or Harry Potter prophecy instead if that yields better results. You guys know what a Ouija board is?
Yeah. Do you not know, or do you?
Yeah. Do you guys? I didn't know if like people.
I mean, I don't mess with the demons.
The demons.
I don't want to talk to them. You
Yeah.
know?
Why not? I didn't know if Ouija boards were
Ignorance
still
is
a thing
bliss.
that your generation gets.
Ignorance
Like,
is
are
bliss.
you here in the room? And then your hands.
I don't
yeah.
want to know.
They were big at sleepovers when I was
are,
growing
hey,
up, and one of
how
my
you
friends
doing?
would be like, I was like, you're clearly just moving it over there to freak me out.
Like that was my thing. Is I know what it is, but I've never used one before. Is it really just like does it actually move, or is it just one of your idiot friends doing it for you? Like
You gotta
moving
find
it.
out. Here's what we'll do.
We gotta find out.
Once
At the barbecue.
no, even better. As soon as we're done recording, we'll go pick one
We'll
up.
go to Jim South Street.
We'll go to Jim's.
in the top
Find a
part.
table.
Actually, we shouldn't be doing Ouija boards at gyms. I'm just happy to have it back.
True.
You know,
They just got that place back. I don't know if we want to unleash the demon.
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Let's
Good
not.
point. Well, let's okay. Since we delved into Ouija boards, let's refocus here. I'm going to read this question again. If you could use a crystal ball right now to find out one player's stats for the 2024-25 season, whose stats would be most informative for determining how Temple as a team did for the season? You may use a Ouija board or Harry Potter prophecy instead if that yields better results. So what Park Al was saying is, if somebody could tell you the stats of one player on the roster, and that's going to be the best indication of how well they do, with their goal in mind being break on through to the other side, as Jim Morrison said, break on through to the NCAA tournament. Which player's stats would be the window into the soul of this team?
Man, that's a really good question.
That's a
That's
great
a good
question.
Let me say, I'll say Jamal Mashburn.
Mhm.
And I'll say because sitting here right now, you think he's going to be the leading scorer, right? You think
Mhm.
he's going to be kind of the heart and soul of the offense, the guy that gets it done. What I'm looking at is how many games did he play? What was his efficiency like? What was he able to do? And did he score? Obviously. Because I think if he can step up into that leading scorer role and be the guy that this team has looked for, and they kind of got in Hysier Miller at times last year, but it wasn't consistent enough, and they never really had that prime scorer go get you a bucket when it counts. If he can be that guy, I think this team can be built for success. So I would look at his stat line and kind of get an idea that, okay, if he snapped into place, I think the team is more inclined to fall around him than vice versa or any other possible scenario.
Good one. Ramir, what do you think?
Oh, the wind chimes in the office.
That is my ring cam going off. It's part
The dogs are home.
pardon the interruption there.
Great show.
No, those are wind chimes. We'll go with wind chimes. Wind chimes. Ramir, what do you think?
A gusty day in the office.
It's such a hard question because there's opportunity for empty stats and guys who can fill the stat sheet up and they win 10 games. Not saying that's going to happen, but like there's opportunity for that. But I think of how Fish wants to play. And I think specifically Elijah Gray's 3-point percentage. If he's knocking them down, that means they're spreading the floor.
Yeah.
It means there's more space for Jamal Mashburn, for Lynn Greer, for Jameel Brown to, operate, Zion Stanford, guys like that to operate. And there's there's less pressure on everyone if they can space the floor. And if he's shooting the ball well, let's say like a 38% clip.
From three, you mean?
From three, yes.
Yeah.
From three. Then it shows how much the offense will work.
Johnny, what do you think?
I was gonna say Jamal Mashburn, but I also think like while you were explaining it, Declan, it kind of pointed out like if you're looking at like the games played, that's a very good like stat to look at. But I think also I'm looking for the supporting cast besides him, and I think a person that spoke today in this podcast, Jameel Brown, I think he could be a very telling player if I looked at his stats because he's been a guy like we've mentioned before. He's been hurt. He was hurt last year, didn't really get to put up many stats, but I think coming out of high school, he was a top prospect. And I think if he can come in and he can kind of refine that, depending on what his role is when coming into this offense, I think if he's able to, come in and shoot at a high percentage, plays well defensively, I think if you look at him and he's a strong, high producer efficiently on this offense, I think that could be telling that he's a big support cast player and can help elevate this team to that next level aside Jamal Mashburn and Lynn Greer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there are any bad answers on this. I think you guys all made good cases. If Jamal Mashburn comes in and is that change agent that they need in the backcourt and is like a all conference level player, then he lifts everyone else up. I love the Elijah Gray answer because of like what you said, what he can do to space the floor. If Jameel Brown comes in and he can shoot the living hell out of the ball, like we know he can, if he's healthy, that's a huge lift, either maybe off the bench. We'll see. A guy that I think of along the lines of Elijah Gray, I'm going to go with Dylan Battie. If I were to look ahead at his stats and you see that, and I'm just obviously pulling these out of thin air. Let's say Dylan Battie gets you 8 points, 8 rebounds a game and shoots 36% from 3-point range. I'm going to look ahead and say, oh,
yeah,
he really, and maybe like a block and a half or 2 blocks game. Ari Rosenfeld from Elite High School Scouting, we've talked to him at least a couple times each season. Ari, if you remember, said he comes in and becomes one of the best athletes in the American period, not just in the Temple basketball program, but in the American Athletic Conference. They haven't had an athlete like him in a while. Again, I realize that teammates are going to say nice things about other teammates. I'm not going to talk to Quante Berry or Jameel Brown, but like, yeah, I don't know, man. This team doesn't look great to me right now. We all suck. They're not going to say that, but people's eyes light up a little bit when I ask, how has Dylan Battie looked so far? A couple weeks ago, Quante was like, he's going to be a crowd pleaser, a crowd favorite. He gives them a level of energy in the front court that they haven't had in a while, and he can shoot it a little bit. The shot form is there. Obviously, he's got to get reps like everyone else. But I think if he, similar to like he could stretch the floor or create better spacing in a similar way to Elijah Gray. I think Elijah is a little bit more of like like a pick and pop type of guy, like a skill set closer to what Steve Settle has. Whereas Dylan Batiste can do a little bit of that, but affect things in the interior. Mohamed Keita, 7-1 to 7-1. If he can block a couple shots a game, give him some size there, that's great. But if you're looking at like those types of numbers for Dylan Batiste, I think they got a shot to do some good things.
Rebounding, especially
Yes.
too, because that was such a big issue for the team last year. That
Mm.
if Dylan Batiste is grabbing rebounds, like 8 rebounds a
Which he
game,
should, yeah.
well, he should. But I mean, like if you see that stat line and you see close to 10 rebounds a game, like that is the kind of production you need from him in this lineup. So
Yeah, and we didn't even, to close things out, we didn't even mention Zion Stanford, and he's
yeah,
one of the players that would be next in line. You saw how last season saw a lot of promise in the non-conference schedule, then hit a wall.
Mhm.
Again, Adam Fisher was pretty honest, saying, "Hey, you got to practice harder. You got to do this better. You got to do that better." Conference opponents have a little bit of film on you now. It's going to be more physical. We didn't even talk about him. If he makes the progression that we think that he can make, you could look at his stats and say, "Wow, he's one of those next in line players." So again, it shows that there's a lot of intrigue on this roster. So we'll still be talking some basketball in the weeks ahead, even as we shift to football. But a lot of good stuff ahead for you guys. Again, if you have not yet subscribed,
What are you
OwlScoop.com.
doing?
Yeah,
What are
absolutely.
you doing?
Great time to subscribe to the site. When we have one-on-one interviews, we're going to reserve those for our subscribers, whether that's recruiting coverage, whether that's one-on-one interviews and conversations with the guys on the football team, the basketball team. So a lot of cool stuff ahead. Thanks so much for sticking with us for another episode. And again, next week, we shift into season 10, a decade
Wow.
of the Scoop.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Double
So,
digits.
Getting old.
Are we gonna have a birthday party
We should
for the
Good.
scoop?
buy some cake.
Good. You guys are good. You guys are good in selecting cakes. Maybe get an ice cream cake. We have to eat it
Ooh.
right away. We have
Maybe
to
an
eat
ice
it.
cream
yeah.
pie.
Yeah, we have to eat it during the Scoop because we can't wait.
A
Because-
mukbang.
It'll melt.
Yeah, well-
Mukbang.
Oh, yeah, what if we're like we really get into it? And it's like an hour and a half long episode. We turn around. and
They're on the
just a
table,
puddle.
melts it.
Yeah,
right.
I think Reese Clark. He could be. He
Yeah.
could be good.
Great point, that one. Yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, hope you guys all have a great week and a great weekend. We will talk to you next week and kick off season 10.